Loneliness is not your enemy. It's your awakening. Being alone doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're rebuilding. In silence, you discover the parts of you the world tried to kill. Loneliness teaches what comfort hides. You're not alone. You're becoming. The world left you so you could find yourself. They walked away so you could walk forward. There's power in the echo of your own footsteps. Loneliness isn't empty. It's full of truth. In isolation, you hear your real voice. Solitude isn't punishment. It's preparation. Loneliness shows you who you really are. You weren't abandoned. You were cleared for transformation. Loneliness burns, but it also builds. The crowd can't fix what only solitude can heal. You don't need them. You needed time with yourself. Being alone doesn't mean you're broken. The strongest souls walk through silence. Loneliness is your silent teacher. They left you to teach you that you never needed them. Pain becomes power when felt alone. You were forged in solitude, not in noise. Every lonely night was a step toward your rebirth. You become unstoppable when you're no longer afraid to be alone. Loneliness removes the noise so you can hear your strength. In your darkest isolation, you found your deepest truth. Alone is where transformation begins. Being alone taught you that peace is better than company. Loneliness breaks illusions. Solitude sharpens your soul. They left. You stayed. You grew. In loneliness, you met the version of you no one could break. When no one clapped, you still stood tall. They don't understand your silence. That's your advantage. You survived nights that were colder than their silence. Being alone is not weakness. It's independence. You learned not to beg, not to chase, not to break. You were meant to walk alone for a reason. Solitude carved strength into your bones. The loneliest paths lead to the strongest destinations. In solitude, you stop performing and start becoming. Loneliness taught you self-respect. They left you behind, and that's exactly where you found yourself. Silence taught you how to roar inwardly. Loneliness didn't destroy you. It refined you. The world left, and you built a kingdom in the silence. No one came to save you, so you became your own savior. In the absence of others, you found the presence of self. Loneliness taught you how to love yourself in pieces. They abandoned you, so you'd rise without them. You outgrew those who made you feel alone while you were with them. Loneliness wasn't your curse. It was your calling. You don't fear being alone anymore. You fear losing your peace. The greatest strength is being okay alone. You carry silence like a blade. Loneliness gave you eyes that see through lies. You became whole in the places they left empty. Solitude isn't a cage. It's a weapon. They avoided you. You evolved. You were never lonely. You were focused. Loneliness isn't absence. It's clarity. Every scar was stitched in silence. The absence of love taught you how to be fierce. Alone is where legends are born. You stopped needing company to feel alive. You faced demons no one else saw. Loneliness is your sanctuary now. The quiet taught you patience, and patience gave you power. You stopped begging to be seen. In loneliness, you became unforgettable. You're not lonely. You're loyal to your peace. Your silence is louder than their apologies. Solitude taught you how to fight without fists. You're not alone. You're healing. Loneliness pulled the poison out of your soul. They don't call anymore, and you don't need them to. What you built in silence, no one can take. The lonely road made you dangerous. You're not heartless, just heavily disappointed. Loneliness didn't break you. It rebuilt you. They don't hear from you because you're building in peace. You became the storm no one saw coming. Alone time isn't wasted, it's sacred. You survived being forgotten. They walked away, but you stayed strong. You became gold in solitude. Your silence is your armor now. In loneliness, you built a fire they'll never understand. You stopped trying to belong and started becoming. You kept showing up for yourself when no one else did. Loneliness shaped the warrior in you. You're not broken, you're just unbothered. Your peace now costs too much for temporary people. You grew tired of noise and fell in love with quiet. You chose solitude over fake smiles. The pain of being alone birthed the power to stand alone. You stopped waiting for them to understand. You became the person no one expected. Alone is where the real work happens. They didn't see your value. Now, they see your distance. Loneliness taught you the power of detachment. You grew stronger every time you were left behind. You don't chase people anymore. You chase peace. The pain taught you how to protect yourself. You walk alone, but you walk tall. Loneliness became your fuel. You stopped breaking for people who wouldn't bend for you. They left. You elevated. Loneliness demanded growth. You gave it fire. Alone, you created magic. You found purpose in the quiet. You stopped needing their approval. Silence became your revenge. You now speak peace in a language they can't understand. Being alone made you priceless. You cut ties with comfort and grew in chaos. You chose growth over gossip. Loneliness didn't harden you. It refined you. You're not alone. You're in alignment. You stopped shrinking to fit in. In your silence, you became something they can't label. Your solitude became your empire. No one checked in, and you still survived. You became your own light. Loneliness taught you to stop explaining yourself. You stopped giving chances to people who didn't deserve the first. You don't chase, you attract through energy. You became everything they weren't ready for. Solitude raised your standards. You now guard your peace like a crown. You walked through fire and kept your soul intact. You became peace in a world of noise. You no longer fight for a seat at tables you outgrew. Loneliness forced you to grow roots. You weren't rejected. You were redirected. You stopped apologizing for outgrowing people. Your silence is a reminder of your strength. Loneliness gave you vision. You don't explain your boundaries anymore. Solitude revealed your soul. You're not waiting for anyone anymore. The quiet didn't scare you. It saved you. Loneliness revealed who truly mattered. You're not lonely. You're selective. You stopped watering dead plants. Being alone showed you what loyalty really means. You trust the silence now. You don't ask why they left. You thank them. You were alone, not abandoned, but appointed. Solitude made you sharper. You chose healing over hiding. You became sacred in the silence. You speak peace, not pain. Loneliness turned your scars into wisdom. You're not bitter. You're better. They weren't your people. That's why they left. Alone is where the universe whispers back. You no longer settle. You rise. You stopped chasing and started becoming. In silence, you built discipline. You walked away without looking back. Your silence screams self-worth. You weren't made to be understood. You were made to stand out. Loneliness gave you time to become a masterpiece. You used isolation as transformation. You found God in the stillness. You grew roots, No storm can shake. Loneliness didn't defeat you. It defined you. You're no longer afraid of goodbye. Alone is your power place now. You became whole without their help. They never knew your silence was your strength. You no longer argue. You remove yourself. Solitude is where legends are sculpted. You became unstoppable by learning to let go. You're not quiet. You're focused. You carry peace where they carry noise. You don't need to be understood to be powerful. You found clarity where others found chaos. You made peace with being alone. You're not missing people. You're missing peace. You grew tired of fake connections. Solitude gave you focus. You no longer explain your silence. You respect your space now. You guard your heart like a kingdom. You're not lonely. You're loyal to your energy. You built walls from the bricks they threw. You no longer mourn what walked away. You don't ask for closure. You create it. You stopped inviting energy that drained you. You know your worth now. You mastered the art of being alone and unbothered. They see your silence, not your storm. You cut the noise and found your truth. Solitude became your safest place. You don't cry anymore. You build. You don't seek revenge. You seek peace. You learn to love your own company. You let go to grow. You became your own anchor. They don't know how strong you became in silence. You don't fit in because you outgrew their limits. You're not antisocial. You're self-aware. You chose growth over comfort. You built strength from absence. Your solitude became your identity. You move in silence, but your presence speaks volumes. You became power wrapped in peace. You are proof that loneliness is not defeat. You became the version of yourself that no one expected. They lost access, not value. You kept going even when no one believed in you. You're not cold, you're healing. Your loneliness was never weakness, it was wisdom. Your pain didn't kill you. It built you into something bulletproof. They can't manipulate what doesn't react. They want you to break because your strength reminds them of everything they're not. You don't ask for respect. You earn it in silence. You stopped explaining yourself when you realized they never listened. You turned heartbreak into armor. Your darkness isn't a flaw. It's your foundation. People aren't ready for the version of you that doesn't care anymore. You don't glow. You burn. Let them underestimate you. That's the setup for their downfall. You gave them loyalty. They gave you lessons. Never forget who stayed silent while you struggled. You're not cold-hearted. You're just done playing nice. Let them talk. You're busy turning your pain into power. You don't seek pity. You build empires in silence. The old you would have begged. The new you walks away. You don't crave attention. You crave results. You stop chasing people. Now you chase purpose. You don't fear failure. You fear being average. You don't want peace. You want power and peace. The quieter you became, the more dangerous you got. You were never fragile. You were just holding back. You cut ties not to hurt them, to heal yourself. You don't cry anymore. You calculate. Let them think you're done. You're just getting started. Some storms come to destroy. Others come to sharpen. You don't bend anymore. You stand. They'll call you toxic because you're no longer easy to use. You don't explain. Your worth, you show it. Growth means outgrowing people too. You don't react anymore. You redirect. They lost access, not because you're bitter, but because you're better. Your new peace scares people who benefited from your chaos. You're not hiding. You're healing. You aren't intimidating. They're just insecure. Your silence says more than their fake apologies. You're not hard to love. You just finally love yourself more. They wanted a reaction. You gave them a reminder. You don't play their games anymore. Let them miss you in silence. That's where your ghost is the loudest. You don't make noise, you make moves. The version of you they tried to break became the version that breaks through. Your revenge is waking up with peace. They won't forget how you walked away without looking back. You didn't just survive. You transformed. They took your silence for surrender. Big mistake. You outgrew the room. Now you build the building. No more proving. Just improving. You don't just endure storms, you command them. You stopped bleeding for people who never brought bandages. You're not bitter, you're better. You're not being distant, you're protecting your peace. They created a monster when they mistook your heart for weakness. You stopped chasing closure when you realized silence is the answer. You're not lost. You're just no longer on their path. You choose depth over noise now. Your glow-up won't be soft. It'll be a warning. Your energy is too expensive for cheap people. You're not built to fit in, you're built to rise above. Not everyone deserves access to the healed you. They'll miss you once your silence becomes permanent. You don't argue. You elevate. You don't seek validation from those who can't even validate themselves. You stopped fighting for people who left you bleeding. They won't admit it, but your absence hit harder than your presence ever did. They betrayed you and expected you to break. You became unshakable. You learned to be your own rescue. Your strength isn't loud, it's lethal. You outgrow people when you outgrow the pain. You're not alone. You're aligned. You don't lower your standards. You raise your frequency. Let them gossip. You're building legacy. They don't know how hard it was to become this calm. They'll test your silence and discover your fire. You stopped asking, "Why me?" and started saying, "Watch me." You don't fight back. You level up. They won't remember what you said, but they'll never forget how you left. You're not chasing closure. You're chasing greatness. You don't play victim. You play to win. They doubted you. Let them choke on the truth. You stopped making noise and started making impact. They tried to bury your light. Now they need shades to look at you. You're not proving anything. You're preparing everything. Let them think you're done healing. You're just getting dangerous. They created a storm in you, and you became the hurricane. You stopped expecting loyalty from the disloyal. They lost a version of you they'll never see again. Your presence used to bless them. Now your absence haunts them. You were loyal to the wrong ones, but now you're loyal to your mission. You walked away like it cost nothing, but it cost you everything. Your silence isn't empty, it's earned. They never saw the battles in your head. They just feared the strength in your eyes. Let them wonder how you keep going. You owe them no explanation. You turned rejection into redirection. The peace you found is louder than the pain they caused. They'll regret how they treated you, but by then, you'll be unreachable. You gave too many warnings. Now they get walls. You're not done. You're just deadly quiet. They said you changed. Good. That was the point. You stopped being the cure for people who made you sick. You didn't become cold. You became calculated. Your silence is sacred now. Only the worthy get words. They'll call you distant. Let them. Peace has boundaries. You stopped being a warrior for people who never showed up to fight with you. Your kindness had limits. They crossed it. They wanted you to fall. You learned to fly. You're not stuck. You're selective. You don't need closure. You need a bigger future. They think they won. Let them celebrate. Your silence is strategy. You don't follow crowds. You break patterns. You aren't just surviving. You're becoming something legendary. They tried to break your body, but they never reached your mind. The battlefield was never out there. It was always inside you. And you were born for war. A war of silence, a war of thought, a war of will. They saw your calm and mistook it for weakness. But inside your head, storms were raging and mountains were moving. Mindset isn't noise. It's power wrapped in silence. When the world screamed chaos, you thought strategy. While they rushed in blind, you waited, calculated, adapted. Your strength was never about how hard you hit. It was about how hard you focused. Pain didn't make you bitter. It made you sharper. Every wound taught you precision. Every scar reminded you of control. You weren't built to react. You were built to rise. They fed you doubt. You turned it into fuel. They gave you fear. You forged it into fire. Mindset means turning pressure into purpose. They want to see you angry, but you smile in silence. Because you know rage is easy. Discipline is rare. And discipline? That's the secret no one wants to talk about. They don't see the mornings you get up when no one else does. They don't hear the inner voice that pushes you forward when the world tries to hold you back. They'll call you obsessive, robotic, too focused. Let them. That's what it takes to build something unshakable. Mindset means saying no when it's easier to give in. It means suffering through the process because you're addicted to the result. They party, you plan, they sleep, you study, they talk. You act, and when the dust settles, they'll wonder how you did it. But you'll know. You trained your mind to obey you. You didn't wait for motivation. You built a routine. You didn't hope for change. You became it. Every doubt they planted in your mind was just another reason to prove them wrong. You didn't ask for an easy path. You carved a brutal one, because the only thing harder than the path is living with regret. They laugh now. But when they see what you've built, they'll understand it wasn't luck. It was mindset. You didn't beg for acceptance. You trained for dominance. You didn't crumble when it got hard. You leaned in. You didn't need applause. You had purpose. That's the power of a sharpened mind. It doesn't chase validation. It creates results. You don't scream your worth. You show it. Every time you fall, you don't break. You reset. Your thoughts don't drift. They lock in. Because when your mindset is unshakable, failure is temporary. Disappointment is fuel. Loss is a lesson. And pain is preparation. You don't chase people. You chase mastery. You don't wish for peace. You train for war. And the war is not with others. It's with the version of you that's okay with being average. You kill that version every single day, because average isn't your language. Comfort isn't your friend. You don't want it easy. You want it earned. That's why your silence is terrifying, because it means you're thinking. And when someone like you starts thinking, the world should pay attention. You've walked through fire and called it training. You've been abandoned and called it freedom. You've been broken and called it redesign, because your mindset isn't survival, it's domination. You don't flinch, you don't fold, you endure. You expand, and every limit they place on you becomes your blueprint for evolution. While they talk about potential, you talk about progress. While they dream, you build. While they watch, you move. They asked you to stay in line. You drew your own and crossed it, because the strongest minds aren't loud, they're lethal. Yours doesn't scream. It executes. It doesn't hope. It hunts. And every day you show up with that same relentless fire, they realize they never stood a chance. Because mindset isn't just thinking positive. It's thinking like a warrior, not waiting for opportunities, creating them. Not asking for favors, earning everything, not following footsteps, leaving a trail. So when they wonder how you stayed calm through the chaos, tell them it wasn't calm. It was control, and control is power. Not the kind they give you, the kind you take.